YouTube says it has had enough of vaccine misinformation on its site.
And false stories from phony sites to run circles around major news outlets.
Many people don't know the difference between something real and something created to deceive them.
Open your eyes.
If you've ever had this feeling that something was terribly wrong with the world that we live in, but you couldn't figure out just what it was, then you've come to the right place. Secret societies, mystery religions, and the Illuminati have been controlling our reality since the beginning of time. But not anymore, because there is an awakening happening, and you are about to become a part of it. Wake up, because this is a call for an uprising.
Now to that breaking news. Singer David pleads not guilty inside a downtown LA courtroom.
The 21-year-old facing murder charges in connection to 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez found dismembered in his car. We have live team coverage. ABC's Alex Stone has more on what authorities are saying about the case, but we begin with Eyewitness News reporter Rob Hayes. He's live in downtown LA outside the courthouse where the singer was just arraigned. Rob.
Yeah, Mark, the DA calling this case horrific. He says David the singer had a long-term sexual relationship with a child and that he killed her to protect his career, dismembering her and leaving her body parts in a car.
Just about an hour ago,
David Burke did not murder Celeste Rivas Hernandez.
David Anthony Burke, better known as David, pleaded not guilty. The singer charged today with a long list of the most serious crimes someone can commit.
First-degree murder with special circumstances. The special circumstances being lying in wait, committing this crime for financial gain, or murdering a witness in an investigation.
If convicted, Burke would face a life sentence without the possibility of parole or even the death penalty. The 21-year-old is accused of killing this girl, 14-year-old Celeste Rivas Hernandez. Her dismembered body was found in the frunk of a Tesla registered to Burke last fall. Hochman said investigators have physical, forensic, and digital evidence proving that when Celeste threatened to publicly expose Burke for having a sexual relationship with her, he invited her to his home, killed her with a sharp instrument, then cut her body into pieces. All Hochman alleges to protect his entertainment career.
This murder was committed for financial gain. As the evidence will show in court, the financial gain was for Mr. Burke to maintain his very lucrative musical career that Celeste was threatening.
Investigators waited more than half a year before making an arrest in the case. On Thursday, LAPD and federal officers busted down Burke's front door and took him into custody. The long investigation, the result of the girl's remains, which had been hidden and decomposing for months.
The substantial amount of time that passed between her death and the discovery meant that crucial evidence had degraded or disappeared.
Today, the attorney representing Burke's family issued this written statement. The Burkes are not surprised but are terribly disappointed that the district attorney chose to charge David. Nevertheless, they support and stand by him 100%.
Now, Burke is due back in court in 3 days. He's due back in court in 3 days. He's being held without bail. Reporting live in downtown LA, Rob Hayes, ABC 7 Eyewitness News.
This is a call for an uprising. Welcome to today's show. I'm sure the majority of you, in fact, the majority of the earth, had never heard of this musician called David, who, like most of these insane clown musicians who claim to be artists, he calls himself David, but instead of using an A and an I in his name, he uses the letter 4, which makes absolutely zero sense. D4VD is how he spells his name, but it's pronounced David. And it just goes along with the idiocracy that we are living in. But some of you may have heard of him now because, of course, he's responsible for the murder of a 14-year-old girl who, of course, he was having an underage sexual relationship with. As most famous musicians and actors in Hollywood, we all know, are, of course, pedophiles. And his name has become a known household name because the body of this 14-year-old girl back in September was discovered inside of a Tesla that he owned. How convenient it's a Tesla as well, that he decided to leave in the middle of an impound lot in California. Of course, most of these people don't have brains. He didn't realize that by leaving his car there with a decomposing body that an odor might emerge, and in fact they would be able to link the car to him because of things like VIN numbers and license plates. So what we have here is a ritual sacrifice. And you might say that you're just saying that because he's a famous or somewhat of a famous known celebrity musician. Well, I'll prove to you that it's a ritual sacrifice because I'll show you all of the connections to Freemasonry that are surrounding this entire story. And that's what this is all about because, of course, we know right in front of our eyes, these people commit ritual sacrifice. That's how they become famous. They tell you this in the lyrics of their songs. They show you these things through the signs and symbols. So let's start with the obvious, and I'll break down, of course, some of the lyrics and things of his song that talk about human sacrifice and a bloodlust. But we'll start with this one, right? Because here you can see right off the bat, here he is doing the 666 hand sign, and we'll get into, of course, having the tattoo of the pentagram, well, written or drawn right between his eyes in this image. But you can see the hands, right? The 666 sign. Now, is he a big MAGA fan? Is he saying A-OK? Well, of course, we know this is part of the club's symbolism that we see this hand sign. Again, represents 666. You can see almost every single celebrity doing it. Usually, they like to do it over their eye, which is just another way of really rubbing it in your faces. The all-seeing eye of Lucifer, the god that they worship. You could see this collage here from Justin Timberlake to pretty much every single celebrity you could possibly imagine. Guys like Bono, who, of course, pretend to be Christian on the surface, just like this guy for David. And that's all part of the game that they play. Madonna doing it, Drake doing it, Beyonce doing it, you name them, they do it. This is the 666 hand sign. Even guys like Harrison Ford, Justin Bieber. The list goes on and on. Johnny Depp, Leonardo DiCaprio. You will find them all doing it. And then, of course, if you look closer, you'll see the star in between his eyes. And again, remember, signs and symbols rule the world. They communicate through signs and symbols. A lot of them have these markings on their bodies, these bloodletting rituals called getting tattoos that they have on their bodies. In situations like this, I don't believe this is a permanent tattoo, but he goes around putting up the pentagram right between his eyes. And again, you say, pentagram, that's a star. Well, they're the same thing, okay? Put them side by side. When it's Halloween season, of course, ritual sacrifice season for Samhain, you always will see this Wiccan pentagram, right? Some people have it up on their doors. They'll have it in stores. You'll go out shopping, and you'll see it even at the grocery nowadays. That's how much they've normalized the pentagram. Of course, we've seen it incorporated with movies about witchcraft from The Craft, etc., and so on and so forth. Everybody should know that the star with the lines through it is a Wiccan symbol used in witchcraft, right? But most people don't realize it's the same exact symbol that we look at as a star when we're saying, hey, let's be a star. I want to be a star, right? And they tell you it's a star in the sky. And of course, that's because people are so dumb, they'll actually believe that stars in the sky look like this. It is about the points in the pentagram, okay? The points in the pentagram. It is the same exact symbol. As you can see, the only difference is the lines through the Wiccan symbol versus the actual star that you're indoctrinated to believe is a star, right? And this goes back to Aleister Crowley. Every man and every woman is a star. Now, I have videos on the website available on the star symbol, on Aleister Crowley. I don't need to get into deep detail here about the meaning of the star, but let's just leave it at that. Every man and every woman is a star. This is part of Aleister Crowley's teaching. This is who they follow. This is the man who claimed to be the beast himself here on Earth. All these celebrities have stars in their body. Nobody asks why. Rihanna has star tattoos around her back. Most of them have stars, sometimes in threes on their bodies, of course. Some of these other celebrities just getting a star in their wrist. I mean, what do you believe? Are they fans of some of these corporations? Carl's Jr., perhaps? Is Rihanna just a big fan? She's like, I love Carl's Jr., I love Converse, I love Heineken, I shop at Macy's, Texaco, my favorite gas station. Maybe I'll just get a star for each company that has a pentagram in it, right? You ever notice how many companies use a star? Now, if you really understand and believe that marketing is real, like, oh, you're going to be a marketer, you're going to get hired because you have these all creative ideas. Well, why do all these big brands all use pentagrams? So when somebody say, we're not going to use a star, Starbucks uses the star, or Texaco uses it, or Toys R Us used to have the star in it, or still does in some places. Paramount's got the stars, right? Carl's Jr. Now, maybe we'll think of something other than a pentagram, right? Now they just all continue to do it and do it and do it and do it right in front of your face. You have things like Be a Star, right? And we have, of course, Disney with the star, When You Wish Upon a Star, right? And again, the most common ones, Macy's and Heineken, are the two funniest ones. Well, some of the funniest ones to me, because they actually both even use a red star. And you'd say, well, wait a minute, Heineken and Macy's, what are you, the same company? You're both using the red star, right? I mean, that'd be like the equivalent of, some of these other companies that use, the Saturn swoosh. Oh, wait a minute. You mean like Nike uses Saturn swoosh and Amazon uses the swoosh, right? Representing Saturn, that ring that you see underneath those logos. It's all the occult in front of us, folks. These are not actual corporations created by these people who claim to run these corporations. American corporation, of course, brought to you by what we would call the deep state and government entities like DARPA that sell you the technology they want to enslave you with or the products they want to poison you with. And of course, the majority of sheeple think it's a conspiracy, so they go out and they buy their Heineken, they go and they shop at Macy's, they go in all these places that literally brand themselves with the occult. Or are they all just Dallas Cowboy fans? Is Rihanna just a Cowboy fan? Is that the reason that Macy's made their logo the star because the owner was a fan of the Dallas Cowboys? I mean, it's so right in front of our face, of course, going back to Freemasonry as well. The blazing star that we see in the pentagram in Freemasonry, because Freemasons obviously believe Lucifer is their god and worship Lucifer. It's in all of their teachings. It's in all of their books. You can see Master Mason degree, even the star being used in that. And of course, we see the star used, like I showed you in the Aleister Crowley photo. That's actually inside of this Star of David. You're told this Star of Saint David, which is really the Star of Raham. So the Star of David, of course, is what you've been told it is, the Star of Remphan. This is a pagan occult symbol. And again, we have Christians who worship, obviously, a flag that uses this star that they believe is actually God's chosen people, and that symbol represents God's chosen people, when in fact it represents the synagogue of Satan. So let's move back over to David, right? Singer David, here, what else do we have? Okay, you're saying, well, he's got the 666, he's got the pentagram between his eyes there. Well, he's got this shh tattoo. Isn't that a coincidence? On his finger, shh, right? You know what else he did? Well, he made his victim, this 14-year-old girl who was underage, also get a matching tattoo of shh. Now you might say, well, maybe it was just their little inside secret, that they both had these matching tattoos because they had to keep it a secret. Well, of course, as the handler of the young girl, because he was grooming her from a young age, I'm sure that has meanings where he was saying, hey, let's get this tattoo on your finger because this is our big secret, right? Which, of course, is supposedly the motive behind the murder, is that he was trying to keep it secret because he didn't want his career to be ruined. But the symbol shh doesn't really necessarily mean that. It has deeper meaning, right? That's why you see David here holding up a finger over his mouth and even having it tattooed. And how about all of these celebrities who take a vow of silence? Is pedophilia a part of it? Of course. You see pedophiles right on this page, like Johnny Depp and Ricky Martin, right, who they even rolled out at the Super Bowl this year out of his coffin. Look at them all, putting a finger over their lip, even getting it tattooed on their fingers like Rihanna. Did he get it tattooed on his finger because he's a big Rihanna fan, or are they both fans of Lindsay Lohan? Maybe they saw the movie Freaky Friday, right? And they're like, hey, Lindsay Lohan is tattooed, so we'll get tattooed. We won't question why. All these celebrities get it tattooed on themselves, or every time they take photos of themselves, like Lady Barfbag, they put a finger over their mouth. Is it because they smell and they don't want anyone to know? Well, of course, they smell like sulfur, right? Some of them smell like feces, probably Gaga, right? Always doing it, putting the finger over their lip. It's the vow of silence and secrecy that they take in these secret societies that they're in, from Johnny Depp to Lady Gaga to Taylor Swift, who does it all the time, to Katy Perry, who, of course, is obviously in on it, just going on the fake Blue Origin spaceship. I mean, we've seen them all. I've exposed every one of them. Every one of them. Marilyn Manson, obvious Satanist, right? Holding his finger up over his lip. Madonna, an obvious witch, holding it up over its lip. Oh, man, the face on this thing is enough to give anybody permanent nightmares or permanent diarrhea. Whatever way you look at it, it's going to be a permanent illness brought upon you by looking into the eyes of that ghoul Madonna. But here you could see in the Royal Master's degree, placing the forefinger to the lip tells one's companion to keep silent. And yes, it has to do with them, of course, these groomers telling their victims to keep silent and the vow of secrecy there. But really, it's about this big club that they're all in and how they become famous with no talent whatsoever. If you read the lyrics of their songs, literally a 3-year-old could write it. And a 3-year-old who probably can't read or write could write better lyrics than most of these clowns, including David, if you actually look at some of his lyrics. And here you see David, of course, on the black and white Masonic checkerboard floor. This goes back to Freemasonry, duality. Every Freemason lodge has these floors in them. You can see photos. You can look them up for yourself. As above, so below. Your good deeds outweigh your bad deeds. And of course, in one of his most famous songs, which happens to be called Romantic Homicide, you'll see him blindfolded. Blindfolded, of course, after he commits a ritual sacrifice, and he's blindfolded. How much more obvious can it really get, right? I mean, is anybody paying attention? He's got the blindfold on, okay? So he's covering his eyes. Now, where do we see the blindfold? Oh, right, in Freemasonry. It represents darkness, from darkness to light, the transition from ignorance to knowledge. Remember, they believe they have this hidden knowledge, right? That Lucifer is the god of this world. This goes back to the garden of Adam and Eve and the tree of life. And of course, Genesis chapter 3, verse 22. And the Lord God said, the man has now become like one of us, knowing good and evil. He must not be allowed to reach out his hand and take also from the tree of life and eat and live forever. This is part of the common theme in these secret societies. They believe that they are gods among us, and we are here to serve them. So the secrecy, the protection, okay, the reliance on others, these are all little meanings, hidden meanings behind the blindfold. You'll see many images in Freemasonry, the rituals and the degrees that they go through. Men are blindfolded, usually wearing their underwear, which probably have skid marks in it. In some occasions, the third degree, they hold swords up to your throat. You take an oath and a vow of secrecy, right? So you can see the blindfold and the symbolism of the blindfold in Freemasonry. And of course, the song, again, Romantic Homicide, is about murdering or ritual sacrifice that is being committed. He proudly even has a shirt that's covered in blood. And well, why don't you listen to this clip from a mini documentary on this guy? Yes, somehow there's a mini documentary on this absolute clown. And listen to him and how he talks about writing poems and things like that every single day. And pay attention to what pops up on his phone on the screen, because we're going to look at it together in a minute.
I remember reading my first manga when I was in 5th grade, Dragon Ball, Tokyo Ghoul, and see these fantasy characters with powers and all that. That weren't superheroes. It was the first time I've seen stories where people have powers or magical abilities without being like a superhero like Batman or Spider-Man or something like that. And that inspired me to start writing and write my own stories about them.
Poetry was a big part of my life, and it's the reason that I make the music that I make. And I basically write a poem every day.
Did you catch that? Did you catch what was on the screen? His phone, as he's talking about things that he writes about. He's talking about blood. Yeah, look real close. Some wish to store it. Some wish to savor it. Some wish to drink it, right? We know they all do, the adreno, right? Some perform rituals surrounded by it. The blood is spreading. So he's writing, even in the video documentary, they of course do that deliberately. He shows a little poem because they don't expect you to pick up on it. They expect you to think it's art or a poem. You're not allowed to question it and think that he's involved in ritual sacrifice. And of course, this is before he actually committed this ritual sacrifice. So if I did this video then with the signs and symbols, people would have said I was crazy. But now people look in and say, oh, wait. And he's talking about some people drinking and savoring blood and performing rituals surrounded by it, right? Couldn't be more in our faces, or could it? Because there's more. There's more. And of course, like many of these so-called celebrities, David has an altar. Not an alter ego, an altar. Because if you pay attention to mind control, MK Ultra and trauma-based mind control, these celebrities are programmed, put through trauma-based rituals at a young age, much like very similar to the Freemason rituals, only a lot worse. They involve things like locking up 3-year-olds in caskets and throwing snakes and spiders inside of there, or keeping them in dark rooms with loud sounds for days on end. Of course, this all ends up with a lot of sexual ritual trauma that they are put through. And this creates alters in their minds, and they create altered dual identities to disassociate from the trauma that they're put through. Let's listen to him again here, talking now about how he has alters. And in fact, one of the alters is a detective, where he's able to look at the other side of him committing murders and ritual sacrifice.
First music to their videos, and Tommy Killjoy, who is the leader of Overcast, he was like, all right, bet, I'll direct your music video, bro. So I pull up to Arizona with my whole family, and we're talking about like the treatment and stuff like that. And I had the idea to kind of make
this first music video introduced a character that I had been kind of ideating for a really long time. That's why you see him with the blindfold and the bloody shirt aesthetic and the bow tie. I'm really big into anime and I'm really big into manga. And I wanted to make my own manga series at one point, and I was writing a lot of poems and writing a lot of things for it. And a big part of that manga was an evil version of me named Itami, which means pain in Japanese. And he wears his blindfold, and he's basically an agent of chaos and kind of my alter ego. And the story of the manga went like I was a detective, and there was an evil version of myself that would kind of come out at random moments, kind of like Fight Club with Tyler Durden. And he would commit the crimes that I would have to solve as the detective. So like when I was as the detective, I'd be like solving murders that I'm committing myself. And it was like a cool little story. I didn't think anything would come of it. Like it was in the vault for like months and months and months. And I introduced it for the first time on screen because I had the opportunity with music to kind of explore this idea further with the Romantic Homicide music video.
I have this alter ego called Itami, which means pain in Japanese. A main motif of the album is the invisible string theory, the Korean ideology of the invisible string theory. Everybody's connected from this invisible life force. And I flipped that for this story, as in everybody is connected to Itami, my alter ego, who is like the agent of chaos in my entire aesthetic. You see him in various music videos. He'll pop up and he's basically like the evil version of me. And he's kind of garnered this cult that followed after him. And in the One More Dance music video, you follow a relationship of two of the cult members, and they're going around with me in the trunk to bury me after I died. And they're just like wreaking havoc on the city. And that was the kind of cool like piece to show just like the layers that I have to this lore and this world building that I'm doing.
So Itami, his sinister alter ego, of course, people will dismiss this and go say, well, it's brought on by anime. And it's, it represents pain in his creative universe, this bullcrap that they constantly give you. They constantly all do it and talk about it. They all talk about their alters. And again, in extreme repeated trauma-based mind control, use physical, sexual, and emotional trauma on their victims. This causes the mind to disassociate as a survival mechanism, okay? This is similar to how natural dissociative identity disorder, DID, multiple personality disorder, can develop from severe childhood abuse. And the programmers exploit this natural splitting by using torture, near-death experiences, giving alters specific names that you see these celebrities go on to use in adulthood. And you've probably heard it and never thought anything about it, but this is all part of Project Monarch and trauma-based mind control. People like Lady Gaga, David Bowie's even discussed it. You probably have heard of Garth Brooks. Remember Chris Gaines, his alter, Donald Glover. But the most notable ones are Nicki Minaj and Beyonce, who, of course, you could see here doing the all-seeing eye symbolism. I guess they both just wanted to take a photograph for magazine shoots and put their hand up over there like all of their friends do who are all in the same club. Of course, Beyonce, we've seen the symbolism over and over. Pentagrams over the eye, the 666 hand sign over and over again. Nicki Minaj, the same thing, even doing the sign that we saw earlier, right? Nicki Minaj, of course, somebody who's taken the vow of secrecy, even dressed as the whore of Babylon herself or himself, whatever you want to define Nicki as. But here they are openly talking about their alter personalities. And this isn't a game. This isn't them going, I'm artistic. When I'm on stage, I'm a different person. I have to bring this different side out of me. This is them normalizing that these people and rubbing it in your face that these people are all victims of trauma-based mind control, and they all have alters. And these are alters that are brought forward via their handlers.
Roman is a crazy boy who lives in me. And he says the things that I don't want to say. He was born, just a few months ago. I think he was born out of rage. He was conceived in rage. So he bashes everyone. He threatens to beat people, and he's violent.
That must be nice to have, like, an ignorant loudmouth who you can just sort of blame every...
He wants to be blamed. I don't want to blame him. I ask him to leave, but he can't. He's here for a reason. People have brought him out. People conjured him up. Now he won't leave.
Can you please bless us with a verse?
Enter Vermin. Waiting.
Dun, 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 dun.
What up?
What up, Roman?
What up? What up?
What is the situation with Roman's revenge? Why, your man Weezy's on point too. It's mad out there.
Yo, Roman's revenge is just about taking control. Saying Roman is here to stay. And anybody that ever doubted Roman is going down in a coffin.
Great rock stuff, kids.
Right, and half of it is really natural, and the songs are all love songs and really vulnerable and more closer to who I really am, and that's why it's named I Am. And then the other half is Sasha Fierce, who was basically who you guys saw.
She's in that position back there.
She is,
yeah,
yes.
that's her.
That's who y'all saw singing Single Ladies.
Over there.
It's very different from who I really am, and I think people expect me to be more like Sasha Fierce when they meet me. So this is really more of an introduction to me. Many years ago, I named my alter ego Sasha, and it's something that stuck. So when I was trying to decide the title of my album, I realized it had two different sounds. One represented who I really am, and one sounded like my alter ego. So I decided to split it into two, because I feel like Sasha is a big treat for my fans. It's definitely exciting being able to have an excuse to be so over the top. And I think you definitely hear the difference. I try to keep Sasha on the stage. I absolutely keep Sasha on the stage, and now she has a last name. She's Sasha Fierce.
So, of course, it looks a lot like demon possession, doesn't it? In a lot of cases, especially with Nicki Minaj, and the butterfly is a representation of that, as, of course, I've shown you over the years, and these videos are all available on the website. With people like Beyonce, we see the monarch butterfly, all-seeing eye symbolism, or just these celebrities who constantly dress up as butterflies, like Nicki Minaj on the red carpet, Lady Gaga, Katy Perry. It's the same ones over and over, Taylor Swift, right? They're all part of the same trauma-based mind control. Of course, Nicki Minaj now is being rolled out as a Christian conservative, and the Christians who have become complete suckers to everything going on in the world believe it. And they're just thrilled to have a celebrity on their team, right? Because their team is really the completely compromised Republican Party, which obviously manipulates and baits Christians 24/7 and gets them in bed with the synagogue of Satan themselves, which is part of the game. And you could even see how they've done it recently with Nicki Minaj and Manhands itself, Erica Kirk, who I've broken down many times as well on the website during the fake assassination attempt of Charlie Kirk, who is now living his best life over in Israel with a new identity, as they all do. And again, romantic homicide, let's go back to that because there's more in regards to blood rituals and blood sacrifice. And that's romantic homicide, not just about blood sacrifice. Look at the release cover for you. See that? It's a rose with blood on it. Look close. A rose with blood. No, that's real artistic, right? How many times have we seen celebrities use roses and bloods? Of course, this is paying homage to the Rosicrucian. The Rosicrucian, which comes from Rosicrucianism, which has a lot to do and obviously is integrated into the Scottish Rite, the 18th degree of the ancient accepted Scottish Rite. And of course, most people hear Rosicrucian, they're like, oh, it has to do with Christianity, right? It has to do with, it has to do with the Hermetic elements, the blending of Christianity with alchemy and Kabbalah and ancient wisdom and mysticism. It is used by Satanists like Aleister Crowley in Thelema. It is used in Freemasonry. It is used in the Kabbalah. And here he is talking about that symbolism and how important it is to him.
And I introduced it for the first time on screen because I had the opportunity with music to kind of explore this idea further with the Romantic Homicide music video. And people were asking so many questions. I was like, yo, this is kind of fire because, like, nobody would have ever heard of it if it wasn't for this music video. But Tommy was the staple of this music video. You kind of see him throughout the entire thing. He's holding the knife with the bloody thing. You get the girl who's basically like the ghost of the person that he killed. Was his first victim in the manga. And I put that all on screen, and me and Tommy had a great time just like chopping it up and getting to kind of merge creative ideas on the entire thing. And the Bloody Rose aesthetic was birthed in that music video as well, and kind of me representing my entire artistry through this rose, which is like beautiful things can hurt you with the stems having thorns on them, and that became my entire aesthetic for like the rest of time.
So in Freemasonry, again, the red rose is prominent in the 18th degree. It symbolizes redemption, resurrection, the dawn of eternal life. And of course, they're not actually honoring Jesus Christ. They're mocking Jesus Christ, because everything they do is inverted. They mock the cross. They mock our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. And Aleister Crowley and Thelema, obviously, like I said, they use strong links to Babylon, the Scarlet Woman, the Great Mother, which, of course, I've covered many times with Aleister Crowley. Even that logo that Aleister Crowley uses for the whore of Babylon, the mother of abominations, which you'll see in a lot of tech companies that are using it these days, like Apple, which, of course, are bringing about the beast system right in front of our faces. And again, that's available on the website as well. So the Rosicrucian, right? And we see this used over and over and over again in symbolism with the cross, where they'll put the rose on it. It's a vintage style Masonic cross illustration that you'll see. You'll even see the Daughters of the Nile, which is another secret society that indoctrinates children with Freemasonry and the occult. The female side, we have Rainbow Girls, Job's Daughters. These are all obviously grooming secret societies where they bring young girls in. They groom them into being Eastern Star. Eastern Star is the witch version of Freemasonry. That is also in every town in America. It is kept under wraps. They want you to think it's just a bunch of little girls having a good time with their moms and their friends. This is grooming. And this happens at a young age. They groom them. They graduate from, Job's Daughters and the Daughters of the Nile, and then they become Eastern Star witches. Just like in Freemasonry, we have the Demolay and other secret orders where the adult Freemasons groom the young boys in many different ways, which we don't need to get into detail about. You can use your imagination. And that's how it continues to spread. And that's how your town continues to be corrupted. That's how they get these things pushed into the school system, because they're all on the school board. It isn't just on a government level, at the White House. It's everywhere. And these people are everywhere. And in fact, they're in your town right now. They're showing up at your parade. You don't even notice them there because you see some creepy old men. And you'll think, oh, there's some old guys there, right? With their little their little hats that they wear, the Shriners, right? Meanwhile, they're trying to get your kid's DNA while they're sitting there. Nobody thinks twice about it. So when I talk about Rosicrucianism and blending of Christianity with alchemy, again, what a coincidence that this kid, David, pretends to be a Christian, Pentecostal of the West Houston Church. Here he is with his pastor, of course, putting on concerts at his church, which I always just constantly criticize, right? David downstairs tonight at his White Oak Music Hall inside of the church, right? Getting all these young kids in there, oh, he's a Christian, and oh, he sings music, let's support him, right? Because instead of reading the Bible in 2026, Christians need to go to church and have concerts. They need to constantly be entertained. They can't just stay home and read the Bible or, fellowship with another Christian talking about the Bible, how it's being interpreted. No, they need to be entertained. So they got to go to church, and church turns into Hillsong, it turns into a concert. It's just a cringe embarrassment. And guys like this pretend to be Christian. And up until now, most people would have called me out and said, he's a Christian. Who are you to say anything about it? And I'd say, well, look at all the signs and symbols, 666, pentagrams, Freemasonic floors, blood sacrifice. He's got lyrics about blood sacrifice and drinking blood. They don't say it's art. Oh, but now that he got his hands caught in the cookie jar where a body was found inside of his Tesla because he was, dumb enough to leave it where he left it, he probably would have got away with it because he's a Mason. And you might say, why did he get arrested if he's in on it and all this stuff? Well, if you're that dumb, then you're really, really dumb, okay? And, you're going to leave a decomposing body where people smell it and they stand by the car and call the police. The police are going to open the trunk and find it. What do you think they're going to do? Oh, well, we found this body. Well, you could still obviously get off on trial and not be convicted. We know how this whole thing works, right? But at the same time, look, they'll look at it and say, hey, we're not going to, there's a lot of things that surround you that show you're in the occult. We're not going to let you walk. You're a young kid. You haven't paid your dues. Maybe we'll give you, maybe a slap on the wrist type of 30-year sentence versus getting the electric chair, although we know they don't do real justice anymore and kill any of these people. But in some cases, as we saw with the FedEx driver, if you've heard that story about the FedEx driver who picked up some poor young girl at the end of her driveway and all this disgusting stuff that's in the news. But these people are just completely unhinged from everything going on in the world, how spoiled, narcissistic people are, the pornography, etc. Anyway, the poor girl, rest in peace, was killed by a FedEx driver. So just moral of the story is you can't even leave if you have kids. I don't, thankfully, but if you have kids, don't even leave them outside for 5 seconds because the FedEx guy might pick them up, rape them, and kill them. But my point is that, well, if that guy, even if he gets put on death row, hopefully private justice ensues in prison. right? Because prisoners themselves, some of which, you can't obviously justify, but I mean, some of which who are in there are not going to stand for acts like that being committed and these people getting to live out their lives on our tax dollar. So anyway, David, I'm sure, is obviously not going to get killed. He's not going to get the electric chair. Maybe he will in prison, right? But all these things, obviously, you could see the connection to Freemasonry and secret societies. And this is all of Hollywood. This is all of the music industry. They're all in on it. Okay, there's no big hidden secret. I expose this stuff every day. I probably have a video on almost every single celebrity, the same signs and symbols that you see in all of the collages. But unfortunately, a young girl was ritually sacrificed, but this happens every day. Most of the time, you don't find out because most of these kids who were born into covens never get a birth certificate, never have an identity. A lot of these women witches from a lot of these secret societies, their job is to breed children for sacrifice. So you wouldn't even know that these kids are even born in the first place. But another ritual sacrifice, another celebrity yet. They'll tell us that the occult, Freemasonry, all this stuff, anyone that talks about it is a tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy theorist. But the simple fact is more and more people are waking up. Unfortunately, more and more people are not finding content like this, and I can't make as much content as I used to because of the fact that they've demonetized my channel. In fact, they even took my PayPal away. I did finally get it back for anybody out there who's still listening at this point. So I will have that linked up. Obviously, any support with Patreon and stuff goes towards giving me more time to make more content because obviously, just like everybody else out there, I have I have to pay my bills. So however I have to do it, I have to do it. So it just takes time away from me making this type of content, which is not me complaining. It's perfectly fine, but that is a way you can support the channel, and that will help me have more time to make more content. I thank everybody for being here. I hope I'll see more of you over on the website at callforanuprising.com. God bless all of you and your families as always.